I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the May 21st, 2007 Lowell Planning Board meeting. The first matter on the agenda is the minutes of previous meetings. We have several of them today, so we'll take them in date and order. The first matter will be the minutes of the December 18th, 2006 meeting. Any of the board members have any corrections or anything to be edited?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from December 18th as presented.
Second?
Motion is made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
I was not present at that meeting, so I will abstain. If for the minutes for December 18th will be accepted, 4 in favor and 1 abstain. Next matter will be the matter for January 4th, 2007. Anybody have any corrections on those minutes? If not, I believe I
One
have...
typo, January 4th, 2007, the minutes say 2006, so I'll just correct that.
Oh, there you go.
Good. Anybody else have any? If not, I have one note I'd like to add. On page 15, coming down from the bottom, if you move up, it says attorney for applicant. He goes on and says there's a whole line of cases, a law that states this is an educational use. This use is protected under federal and state law. The Supreme Court has a whole line of stating that the educational use, it is broad, but this falls under this use. Also, counsel at that point in time went on and indicated that if someone teaches a youngster how to tie a shoe, then this is educational use. And I know when he said that, I backed it up and said I had a hard time believing that, and I told him I had a hard time believing that if someone teaches a youngster how to tie a shoe, then it's educational use. I told him, my opinion, then the whole city would be educational use, and it would be exempt from going before this board ever in the future. So I think if we could just add, when the attorney made that comment, he says that if you teach a youngster how to tie a shoe, then that's an educational use and it's exempt from our regulations. When he cited that, I had a hard time buying that. He didn't give us a direct case that said that, so I'd like to amend that if all parties agree.
Yeah.
Anybody has an objection to adding that?
No objection.
No objection.
No? Any other corrections by anybody else?
I have none.
No.
Hearing none, I make a motion to approve the minutes from January 4/07.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve as amended.
Motion
I'll
made and
second the
seconded.
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. January 4th have been allowed. Next matter would be the January 18th.
And one minor correction on page 4. The third line from the top. It's my statement, the second sentence, it says, can you clarify what is there? I think that should be now instead of not, just that typo. And exactly what you will do. The not, the T to a W. That's all I have.
Any other questions by other board members?
I have none.
None? Motion to approve.
I make the motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the January 18th, 2007 minutes as amended.
Motion is made. Anyone second those minutes?
Second that.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the January 18th minutes are hereby approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving along for the February 5th, 2007. If nobody else, I do have one correction, I believe.
I have one minor correction,
Okay.
too.
You can go ahead, Mr. Lockhart.
On page 6, at the very bottom of the page, again, my statement, as far as the parking, these are garage parking. you will have 45, or 2 for each unit, but 5 additional. The words might be there, if they get a little mixed up, it doesn't make much sense the way it's presented. And I don't remember what I said back in February. Just doesn't make any sense. to me. That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, if it pleases the board, I can look and see what that exact wording is and make the
Sure.
correction.
I have one question, talking about the Middlesex Street Millview Estates. That was for a special permit and a site plan. The motion states that we approve the special permit and the site plan, both 5-0. My recollection is that the site plan was, my recollection was the special permit was approved 5-0, but I think on the site plan, I think Mr. Genman voted against.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that.
Thank you. Anybody? That was my recollection, and Mr. Genman, I think he would call, and he agrees that that should be that the special permit was 5 in favor, not 0 against, and for the site plan, it was 4 in favor, and Mr. Genman was against. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may briefly, I'll go back to the decision letter, and I believe I recall that as well, and the decision letter, I believe, does reflect that.
Okay,
It was probably a simple unfortunate copy and paste.
okay. Because I know when we took the vote, we did 2 separate and distinct votes, and I believe it was 5-0, then 4-1, so we could amend that. Besides that, I have no other amendments. Any other board members have anything else besides that?
No.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the February 5th minutes as amended.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I know we received 2 matters today by way of communication by email. I don't know if the board members had a chance to look at the March 5th and the March 19th. If they had a chance to look them over, we could either adopt them tonight, or if not, we could put them over for the next meeting, whatever the pleasure of the board is. Anybody, all members have a chance to look over March 5th, or they need,
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the March 5th minutes as presented.
any discussion by board members? Have any problems with those? None?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll approve the March 5th, too. All in favor, say aye. Okay.
Aye.
March 19th. Everybody have a chance to review those as well, since we just... Motion to approve the March 19th.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain to that because
Okay.
I wasn't present at that meeting.
Okay, so we have 4 in favor and 1 abstention because 1 board member was not present. Mr. Genman?
You know, we gotta go back because I wasn't,
Okay, which one was,
the one I made the motion for, I was not here.
okay, which one was that?
March
That was-
5th.
Okay, the March 5th?
I read 'em, you know.
Okay, yep. Mr. Lockhart was not here,
I have to abstain from that.
so instead of the 5-0 vote, the vote will be 4-0, 1 abstain. You get that, James? You can go back and
Yep.
amend that?
I got that.
That concludes our minutes acceptance on tonight's meeting. At this point in time, I'd like to waive the order of the agenda and, at this point in time, bring up some new business, which is a lot release, Residential First Development Corporation, 1436 Gorham Street. The board will discuss the lot release proposal for the remaining of the lot's location in Zone 2 of the Residence First Development Corporation project at 1436 Gorham Street. In total, the applicant is requesting 18 lots to be released, which are all part of Zone 2 of the project. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Yes, my name is Dennis Connors. I'm representing the Residence First Development Corporation. The motion speaks for itself, really. There's 18 remainder lots in Zone 2. We request that we utilize the same procedure that we utilized on Zone 1. Our engineers will certify to the city that the work was done per the plans and specifications. We will invite the city engineer to do a joint inspection with our engineers, and upon satisfaction of any concerns that he has and the issuance of the occupancy permits for the houses, we will ask for a blanket release from the Planning and Development Department. We plan to be ready the first or second week of June for it. The majority of the houses are under agreement, and we want to be able to sell them before June 30th.
Thank you, sir.
Also, thank you for your consideration for...
You're welcome.
taking me here. Appreciate it.
Anybody else here want to be heard on the lot releases on 1436 Gorham Street? Anybody else? Anybody else in favor? In favor? Anybody else in opposition? In opposition? Any questions of board members at this point in time?
Mr. Chairman, before you take a vote, if I could just say that I do need to abstain from voting on
Okay.
this issue.
Mr. Fischett will hereby abstain on this matter on 1436 Gorham Street. Any of the board members have any questions?
I have none.
None?
I have none, other than, I haven't seen any documentation or anything on this. Maybe if James could just talk to this a little bit.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board. As we've discussed in the past with this project, this is a unique situation with the subdivision project. It is very heavily, there's a large cooperation between the developer and the city engineer, as well as the Lowell Housing Authority, I believe, which is handling quite a lot of the regulation of the project itself. And as in the past, there are agreements in place to ensure that should the project owner or the manager not follow through with what the subdivision plans show, there are ways for the city to actually recoup those costs. As part of the agreement, because of the unique situation of this project, we do have those agreements in place. If it pleases the board, I can work with both the Mr. Connors as well as our city engineer's office to have something in record prior to the formal release of the actual lots. If that can be a condition of however the board wants to proceed with that is fine. That can be a condition of the proceedings to move forward with the lot release if the board is comfortable with that. It can be a simple working out between the engineers. I know that the city engineer has been working pretty closely with this project, and we can just formalize that process as part of the release if the board is comfortable.
Mr. Chairman, I think typically what we had done in the past is just make the lot releases conditioned upon issuance of the occupancy permit, so that we're comfortable that everything's been completed and everyone's signed off on it. So personally, I'd be comfortable with that.
Yeah, me too.
You want to make that in the form of a motion?
Sure,
Okay.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, that we release the remainder of the lots, the 18 lots in Zone 2, conditioned upon the issuance of the occupancy permits.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made on the floor and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes, so the vote carries 4-0 and one abstain. Thank you, Mr. Connors.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The next matter will be a public hearing. Public hearing, this is site plan review for 14 Perry Street. The Lowell Planning Board will review an application by Jeremy McSorley of Greener Landscape for site plan review of a project located at 14 Perry Street. The proposal includes the demolition of an existing auto repair building and the construction of a new car wash facility. The project is located on a lot that is 8,289 square feet in land area, located in a traditional neighborhood mixed-use zone and partially in a urban neighborhood mixed-use zoning district. The project requires site plan review under section 11.4 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. This is also known as would be Burke Auto on the corner of Perry Street and Andover Street. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for the record, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, Lowell, representing Jeremy McSorley, who's with me tonight, along with Jack Luigi, who was our engineer. As the notice stated, we're in front of you tonight for site plan approval for an automatic car wash to be constructed at 14 Perry Street, Lowell. And as you remember it, and as I remember, it's the site of the former Ed Burke Auto Repair Shop on Perry Street. The entire lot consists of approximately 8,289 square feet. And as the notice stated, portion of the premises is zone UM2, which is the portion closest to Andover Street, and the other is TMU, which is inside. A car wash is a permitted use in both zones with a special permit from the Board of Appeals, which if we are successful in getting site plan approval, we still have to go to the Board of Appeals. It is Mr. McSorley's intention is to demolish the existing building and to construct a one-story car wash. We have a rendering that was prepared by Gavin and Sullivan on the board, and as you can see, it's a very attractive building. It would have 2 bays and would exit out onto Perry Street. Concord Street, as you're well aware, is a one-way street, so you would enter from Concord Street and you would exit out onto Perry Street. The 2 bays we have provided for a queue of eight autos, and we've also provided for an emergency exit lane if that was necessary. So if someone had to get out, they could get out and go down beside the building. I think you're all familiar with this area. It is an entrance to the city of Lowell, and I would think the development and the building of this building would really clean up that area and make it very attractive to the city. As I stated before, Jeremy does run Greener Landscaping, and I don't know whether any of you people are familiar with the Bolt Street area, but he bought some land over there and built a building where he operates out of, and he did the entire neighborhood over with trees and landscaping and fences, and he's done a great job. And it would be his intention to do the same here, which would really clean up that area. I know there were some comments from the engineering department and from the traffic engineer. I know Jack has met with staff and the traffic engineer and has submitted a new plan. So I will turn it over to Jack to discuss further what he has done, and if you have any questions, we're here to answer them.
My name is Jack Luigi. I'm from Dana Perkins' office, and as Attorney Flood said, this project is a proposed automatic car wash at 14 Perry Street. The building, we tried to locate the building as close to Perry Street as we could to allow for the maximum number of queue behind the 2 bays. So I could show you another plan here in a second that shows the 8-car queue behind the 2 bays. Additionally, we did provide an emergency turnout should a car need to get out of line and go around the building without getting stuck in the queue. There's an area adjacent to the car wash that we're proposing to have vacuums for the cars. Some of the comments that came back from the city engineer, as well as the traffic engineer, I believe, pointed out the fact that my original plan showed curb cuts in excess of 25 feet per lot. In an effort to address that, I met with the planning department on Friday, or Thursday, I think, and reworked the plan so that now we only have a 25-foot curb cut entering the site, exiting the site, and then on this lot we have 2 12-foot curb cuts to access the vacuum area. So the 2 separate lots each only have the 25-foot curb cuts per each frontage, if you will. Additional comments were more or less related to that with the pedestrian safety issue. Originally, I had all this wide open, no curb at all, so that a pedestrian going from one side of the site to the other would have essentially no island to avoid any traffic on. So with the additional islands that we're proposing, there's 3 different places that a pedestrian could wait for cars to pass. We've also proposed handicap ramps, vertical granite curbing, and all the curb cuts. And the handicap ramps are according to the ADA specs. The water, one thing you should know about the water for the car wash is all recycled. So essentially the only water that theoretically gets off the site into the street possibly would be just water on the wheels of the car, on the tires of the car, or that drip from the underneath of the car when the car exits the site. So essentially all the water for all intents and purposes is recycled. There's no employees for this. Occasionally someone would have to come and replenish the detergents and so forth, and check on the operation. And for that purpose, I did provide one employee space, so that there would be a place for them to park. City engineer also requested some drainage on the site, so I reworked the plan, and we're proposing to install 2 catch basins to get the runoff from the site and then tie it into the existing drainage on Perry Street, which exits immediately across the street and into the Concord River. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, sir.
The only other comment I have, Mr. Chairman, is that I know there was some concern in speaking with James regarding the safety, and especially down near Perry Street. We'd be willing to put up any type of signage that you want, like beware pedestrians, stop, something coming out of the building, just to make sure that they look for pedestrians. But I think, you know, from my experience, there's always been an entrance on Perry Street that close when Mr. Burke was running his auto body shop, but we'd be willing to do that.
Mr. Flood, do you have anybody else with you who wants to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn it over to the public?
Do you have anything you want to say, John? No, I think we're all set.
At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the public. Anybody here like to speak in favor of this project? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is hereby closed. Anybody here like to speak in opposition to the project? Yes, ma'am, just come to the microphone if you would and state your name and address, please.
My name is Elizabeth Silver. I reside at 70 Concord Street, and I also have a business at 40 Perry Street. From looking at these plans, I'm not thinking that anybody else is thinking about anybody else on the road. First of all, that young fella just said that nobody else is going to be working there, no employees. So whoever wants pays for a car wash and doesn't want it just goes through with no employees at it?
Excuse me, if you could just address your questions to the
Okay.
board, please. This isn't a question and answer period.
problem.
You just state to us why you think it's a good project
All
or
right.
why it isn't. And if you have any concerns, you can list those concerns. And from discussion, I'm sure the board members will address your concerns.
Sure.
Thank you.
The first thing was the employees. So he was stating there's not going to be any employees, there's only 2 spots for employees to park. The other thing is, if the cars are coming into Concord Street, as you know, the other side is Andover Street. So if we have a car pile up on Concord Street, which is a one-way, that means we all have to wait until they all go into the car wash, so then we can get into our own street to get home. Because there's no other means, that's not a 2-way road there, it's a 1-car road. So if there's a bunch of cars waiting to get into the car wash, the overflow has to get into Andover Street. Once they go through the car wash and they come out on Perry Street, what are the cars going to do on Perry Street? Have we done a traffic flow study? We probably need a traffic flow study, because right now, Perry Street is jam-packed with vehicles. As you know, there's a building right next door where Mr. McSorley is thinking of putting the car wash. There's 3-bay garage there. All of the garages there, they have cars inside and they have cars outside. They fix the cars outside more than they fix the cars inside sometimes, I think. On the Perry Street side of that, Mike's building, there is also Town Taxi, which is usually full of cars, because all of the employees, they can't put the cars inside the taxi service area. The taxis are already in there, they're putting in their cars outside. That's a really busy road as is. Down the street, we have a car wash already, and that's not even being used. Right on Roger Street, right outside of Old Mother Hubbard. I don't see how this is going to work in this neighborhood. I mean, it's a real good idea, but this kind of a car wash, it's 2 roads that are awfully busy. It's jam-packed already on Concord Street and Perry Street. That's all my concerns.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Anybody else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the board members. Any of the board members have any questions or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes. Mr. Fischett, go ahead, please.
Just first of all, to the petitioner, I have to congratulate you. We had, I think it was a cell tower on Bolt Street or off of there, and I think that's probably one of the most attractive-looking streets in the city of Lowell, so I certainly can appreciate what you would be looking to bring to the site. Just so I understand, I just want to make sure from the artist's rendering, what we're looking at, there would be absolutely no buildings between the car wash and Andover Street, is that correct? That everything's coming down?
Yes, that's
That is
correct.
the streetscape that is being proposed?
Yes.
Okay. I have to, again, I have to believe, it would certainly, from what's there right now, would certainly be much more attractive, and I know you cited the master plan regarding the major gateways into the city and trying to beautify them, so I certainly can appreciate that. However, when I'm looking at this site, and from a practical matter as to how to fit it on here, it's a tight location. I made my own notes as I viewed that site and looked at the plans, and when you look at car washes, especially in the spring, or even in the winter when there's a warm spell and everybody goes to the car wash, it wouldn't take long to back up onto Concord. And I guess I am concerned as well, because there's only, Concord being a one-way street, you could easily find yourself backed up on Andover Street. In the exit, I find the exit, I looked at this and I'm looking at it, so how far back can you put, I understand why you put the building as close to Perry Street as possible. But I'm also looking at do you know, what is the distance between the exit and the curb? Is that, I'm looking at an SUV going through there. It's probably gonna, the back end of it is still gonna be in the car wash while the front end is.
Maybe I should explain how the car wash works.
Yeah, if you could, please.
What happens in these automatic car washes is the car drives up. There's a place to pay. You either pay with a credit card or cash. You choose what kind of a car wash you want. Then the car drives into the building. It doesn't move once it's in the building. All the equipment circles the car, and then it dries it off, and then the door opens and you drive out. So there's really no, it's not the track type of car wash that we're all used to. This is a different kind.
Right.
So when the car is done, the door opens, he'll come out to here, he'll look both ways and then exit. The next car can't get in until he's out.
If you could elaborate though on what is the distance between, if you could give us the distance between I would appreciate that.
Between,
The actual sidewalk.
yeah, it's about 15 feet back to the actual gutter
the
line
curb?
of the car, right.
To the curb. Right, so you'd be entered into the right-of-way of the sidewalk.
You're in the right-of-way, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
You'd be
Okay.
within the right-of-way.
Okay. And then obviously, I can appreciate that the auto body shop was close to the street, but the volume of cars going through a car wash versus, I suspect, an auto body shop would be different. Do you have any idea how, and I'm sure even from just the numbers, whether it's economically feasible, what you're anticipating for volume going through this car wash?
Study on volume? No, he hasn't done a study, Mr. Fischett, on it.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's going to be the vertical granite curbing. That's the safest thing to have, and I think obviously visually it will look attractive.
Yeah, and that's city spec, too.
Yep. Have you looked at with some of the emergency type of, and I guess probably is the wrong choice of words, but what are some of the options you have for people exiting that car wash to alert either pedestrians that a car is coming out of there?
Well, I think a pedestrian would know because the garage door is going to come up. It's an automatic garage door that will come up when the car is washed. the car will come out of the car wash, you know, and stop. And so when the door is coming up, if there's a pedestrian walking by, he's going to take notice that the door is coming up and a car could be coming out.
Now, does the owner of the car drive it out of there at that point?
You never leave the car. You stay right in the car the whole time.
Have you ever seen the one in North Chelmsford by the Williamsburg condominium?
There's
Yes,
also one
yeah.
over
This is
Skips.
similar to that.
I guess the issue I have with the site is it's not very deep on both sides, coming
But-
in and...
I don't know what business it would generate, but I know I've been by the one in Williamsburg on numerous occasions, and I've never seen a backup there, and I don't know how many times you've been by.
Right.
You know, you get 3 or 4 cars going through, and that's about it. I can't answer that question.
Right.
No one knows what it would be, but this is what it's planned to be similar to that.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have no more further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Mr. Lockhart?
Sidewalks, the pedestrian issue is a big one here. Can you just describe the sidewalk patterns and
Sure,
where
there's-
the ADA compliant ramps are, and from a pedestrian safety standpoint, walking, just address that, clarify that, please.
Right now, there's an existing sidewalk that comes down Concord Street, along Andover Street, and then comes down Perry Street, all the way around the site, if you will. This is an existing parking area for the restaurant across Andover Street. So what would happen is there would be a handicap ramp here and here on both sides of the proposed driveway that would conform to the ADA spec. There would also be a handicap ramp here and here on both sides of that driveway, here and here on both sides of this driveway, and there on both sides of that driveway, so that, you know, the pedestrian would still have access all the way around the site within the sidewalk area, and there would be, as I said, the ramps at each driveway curb cut.
I didn't, when I visited the site, didn't note the condition of those sidewalks, but are you going to upgrade that
This,
to?
yeah, any construction within our frontage would be improved.
Okay.
The sidewalks would be improved.
All right.
Just additionally, we are adding curbing in places that there isn't curbing now, so that we'll be constructing sidewalks in those areas as well.
Okay. Another question regarding employee parking. One of the people had a question on that. Did you say you had one space for? That doesn't seem adequate enough. I mean,
The car wash is totally automatic. There are no employees. The only time that someone would be at the site is when they're replenishing the detergents for the machine. And,
where do they park when they do that?
well, I did provide one employee space.
I really don't think you have enough. Just from a practical standpoint, one space is not enough. And we'll let that lie like that. The water utility had a question on these sheets that we get back regarding some pipe size or something. You talked with them regarding that?
Excuse me, I did not. I didn't
We
see
need
that
to
one.
know the size of the water service and size of the meter.
Okay, we could provide that.
That needs to be addressed. And the last thing, I just need some clarification on to follow up on Mr. Frichette was referring to as, you know, it's pretty tight between the two streets there. Can you just give us a little background on the queuing, the number of cars that can be queued on the, I guess, the east side of this lot, coming in off of Concord Street? And can you tie it into, trying to get a feel for, like, if you can queue up 8 cars, how long would it take you to process, so to speak, 8 cars through that car wash? How quickly can you service them? Just give us a feel for your throughput and the possibility of a backup on Concord Street.
I think Jeremy might have some information about the actual workings of the car wash and to address your question about how
I think
long
it's
it takes.
critical because of that, and it all comes back to safety as well.
Understood. This plan, I did a schematic plan here that just shows how cars would fit on the site. And these 2 lanes, you could fit 4 cars behind each lane for a total of 8 cars before you get to the gutter line on Concord Street. Should it go beyond that, I would envision that the cars would probably line up here. Concord Street has sufficient width so that cars could get by, even if there were cars in Concord Street. The total time for the car wash, I think it's probably about 5 minutes.
No, it's 3, I have the specs here. The average, it would run between 2.5 to 4 minutes. The average is 3 minutes per car wash. So on this proposed car wash, you'd have a maximum of 40 cars an hour, which would be,
Okay.
you know, based on an average of 3 minutes.
And you have no estimates as to what you're expecting?
No, I mean, you know, I think Silva mentioned the one down the street. That closed. I don't know why. It's not open, so I don't know whether
Yeah, all right, I
what
would
the
just think
demand
there'd be
is.
some kind of a number
I have no idea.
available. What is the exact dimension on the exit side of that building from the garage door to the edge of the street?
About 15 feet. Scales.
Is that a car length?
Car length is about 15, yeah.
So you're
15
really,
to 18.
I'd prefer to see more space there so a car could fully exit the overhead door and sit there and then be able to look as opposed to being partially back in there. I think you'd have a much more comfortable site if you could do that.
We could slide the building back into the site, but we'd be sacrificing.
Oh, I understand that. You know, it's really tight. You know, the safety issue is really what drives my comment. I think you need more space on this side. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Genman, any questions, concerns? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm looking at the new map now. I was actually looking at the old map for a minute there. It looks like you've adjusted the vacuum area to allow somebody to drive. Well, so if somebody's exiting the car wash and they want to go to the vacuum area, how would they do that?
After they exit the car wash?
Yeah.
They'd come out onto Perry Street and they would come in
Okay.
this way.
So you've got a situation where if somebody wants to access the vacuum area, they need to come out onto Perry Street, take a left into the vacuum area, then come back out again, kind of a circular pattern there.
Correct.
Okay. That's a little concerning, too. People kind of exiting and entering a couple times onto the city street to get out of the car wash and into the vacuum area might cause even more traffic situations. Have you thought about, I mean, I'm concerned about the queuing of the cars and the spillover of traffic, as Ms. Silva brought up, onto Concord. It's Concord up here. And then potentially causing tie-up on Andover Street, which we all know would be a disaster. So have you thought about entering from the Perry Street side? Like if you reposition that car wash. Can I borrow that? If you were able to reposition this, you know, maybe turn it this way or just push it over to the side and allow people to enter here, that would allow for more queuing and have people go through the car wash this way and then exit out onto
Exit right.
Concord. They'd have to turn right. They wouldn't be able to go back out on Andover Street, but I think it would provide for more queuing, and you could probably also provide some kind of turn-in vacuum stations over here as well. Just a thought, because the amount of queuing, I think, is a concern, as was brought up earlier by my colleagues. Entering out into the street without being able to pull completely out of the bay, that's also a bit of a problem. So that's a thought that I had.
You know, the only thought I have on that is I'm trying to picture various car washes. Now, if you look at the one that was on the other end of Perry Street, it was an automatic one, and it came out. but the vacuums were on the left, so you'd have to come out and go around anyways there. And the other one that I sometimes go through is in North Andover, Hafner's, where their vacuums are located off to the side too. So I don't think, I think the car wash is a convenience, and people, I don't necessarily go and vacuum every time I go through anyways.
I've seen
But
your car, I realize that.
Huh?
I've seen your car, I know that.
My wife does that, not me. No, but I see what you're saying, and I think we can appreciate your concerns.
So can I just to follow up on those comments, I go to the one occasionally out in Chelmsford behind the Radisson, which I think is a similar type of car wash. I'm not totally opposed to the idea. I think it's a nice facility, and it definitely would clean up that block. But I think the concerns about the traffic flow are valid. The concerns about the queuing are valid. Most of the time, I think that the logic is in these car washes that you want to have the vacuums available for when people exit the car wash. After they've cleaned the outside of their car, then they can go vacuum. So if you were to change the direction, you could actually put vacuums on the other side so people could easily access it. I don't know. It's your project, but my concern is, I think, some of the ones that have been raised by the other members of the board, the queuing, spillover of traffic onto the street, and then the closeness of the exit to pedestrians and Perry Street.
I don't know whether you could put the vacuums on the other side, Steve, because then they'd have to stop. It's narrow in that spot, so if they came in off Perry Street and went up through the car wash, I don't think there'd be enough room for them to stop up there.
Maybe not. Just a
Yeah,
thought I had.
I'm just
but-
looking at it, based on your comment, I'm looking at it from here. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe,
well, I'd like to add a little something. We actually did look at that. We looked at putting the building up in this area and accessing through Perry Street. Our main concern was a safety issue there. Because of the proximity to Andover Street, we were afraid that people might take a left out of that car wash, even though it says one way, because it's right there. And, you know, we were concerned that people would be going the wrong way on a one-way street. That's why we refined it and came up with this configuration. That was the whole thing. I mean, you're coming out here, I can see people just banging a left and heading out onto Andover Street.
Maybe if you wanted to keep that direction, maybe if you just even, decided to forego the vacuums and turn the building so that there'd be more room for queuing and more room for exiting. I know that would affect your business. You'd have to make a business decision on that, but I want to see the project succeed. I'd like to see you have it in there, but as it's constructed right now, or as it's laid out right now, I'd have a hard time, supporting that.
well, I would suggest maybe we should hear the other comments, and then maybe we could continue this for 2 weeks, and we can take a look at the suggestions and try to come up with some other alternative. But I'd like to get the rest of the comments that we can consider. Does that make sense?
Sure, we can hear from the other board members, and we'll go from there. Mr. Claremont, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, the portion of the property that's to the left of your project, as we're looking at the site plan, on our plan, it's marked as bituminous concrete pavement. That area that's off to the Andover Street side, that is just an area that's going to be what, landscaped?
We don't own
That's
that.
not ours.
Okay,
That's-
so,
That
but
goes
I-
with the restaurant across the street.
I
all
did
right, so
encourage-
this is concrete pavement now that nothing's going to happen to.
No.
When I look at the
That area-
streetscape, I'm
Right,
sorry.
that area is overflow parking for the restaurant across the street. He owns that. And I've encouraged Jeremy to talk to him, because there's an area adjacent to that paved area that could also be landscaped. And Jeremy's totally in favor of that, and I think if this gets approved, he would probably talk to that individual and landscape that as well.
And it might be an opportunity, if you can work something out with them, to put some of your services over there to free up some of this area. As I look at the zoning code, requires for a car wash queuing for 5 cars. It's unclear to me whether it means 5 cars for the entire project or 5 cars per bay. It wouldn't make sense, in a way, if you had a 5-bay car wash to just have queuing for 5 cars total, which would be one car per bay. But it's not clear, I don't think, from the zoning code itself. That being said, obviously, we need to try and maximize the queuing and keep all of your business on the lot to get it off the street, and that's, I think, what everyone is interested in. I concur with Steve in terms of attempting to move the building in some fashion to give you some extra queuing room, and I'm sure you're going to explore that. I'm not sure if that building could be slid down closer to your vacuum area. That's an area that seems to be underutilized. I know you've got the vacuum area there.
Side, yeah.
But if you were able to slide that down to the right, I'm not sure if the engineering would work to bring in the cars, turn them into that building, and turn them out with one exit. But perhaps that's something you can look at as well. But I think we're all sort of on the same page. We want you to have a lot of business, and we want to keep it all in the lot. So that's where I'm coming from. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I know we received the new plan that came after we had comments from the old plan. So let me just try to compare some of the comments that we had with the old plan and the new plan. On the old plan, the main concern was that we had from traffic engineering and everybody else was the curb cuts and the width. And it also went on and said that with the way the curb cuts stand as the previous plan, before we get the new one, I think I got it on Friday, that you would need city council approval for those curb cuts. With this new plan, you do not need those, correct?
No.
Okay, so that answers a lot of questions I have on the curb cuts, all right. And as indicated, for the sidewalks that you're gonna clean up on the site will all be granite curbing. You went over the handicap ramps, which I had a question on. What about trash pickup on your site?
We have a proposed dumpster location,
Yep.
fenced dumpster location.
But now, obviously with the dumpster, it has to be screened and locked, right? Per
Yes.
se, I mean, so you're still gonna have, which I presume, by near any vacuum area, there's always barrels, because people throw all sorts of stuff they have in their car out. Usually, like fast food service containers, McDonald bags and food and all that stuff. So you need barrels on that site to hold up all that stuff, and when they clean out the car, they throw out just more than what they vacuum. So you're gonna need barrels on that area, right?
Yes.
So therefore, now the barrels are gonna somehow make their way from the barrels on site into, I believe, the dumpster somehow.
Yes.
So how would that happen? Is the person who parks in the employee space gonna maintain that, or is that somebody else?
I would assume it would be when they come to
Okay.
probably check the receipts and check the soap and what have you, they could do it at the same time as doing that.
Because I know also, even in those vacuums, when you open them up, they have to clean that area out, which consumes a lot of dirt. So you'd have, most likely, like I say, you'd have the barrels near the vacuums, as well as the dirt that the vacuums, usually like the ones they have, as council indicated, Hefner's,
Yeah.
they open them up, and they have the barrels right there with all the dirt.
I would assume it would be near the vacuum,
Okay.
and which is where the dumpster is located now anyway, so.
So my next question would be, I know you have snow storage where the proposed cars are to come in off Concord Street to enter the site. What about snow storage where the vacuum area is?
That'd have to be removed. If there was insufficient storage here,
Because I think you'd have because if you look at it now, your vacuum area, there's no way you're gonna be able to plow your snow storage from your vacuum area all the way up to Concord Street. Am I right?
Jeremy has a lot of equipment to remove the
Yeah,
snow. if it-
but I'm saying, so what would happen is where the vacuum area is, you'd have to come out, take a right against the traffic coming at you, cut across all the lanes of the cars coming into the snow thing to meet the snow storage on the corner of Concord Street. And this area down here is on Perry. I mean, you don't show anywhere where you push it to the side is what I'm getting at, I guess.
No, it would have to be removed.
Okay. But I mean, a lot of times I know what you do is you push it to the side, let it build up, and then remove it, because usually you just don't come in and scoop it all up. For example, if you get 3 inches of snow, you're not gonna come in with a big front-end loader, scoop up the 3 inches, put it in the truck and take it away. You're usually gonna push it to a corner on your site, and then when it piles up, then come in with the loader, pick it up, and transport it off-site. So the only thing I'd say is maybe you'd need some type of storage area by the vacuum area for snow storage. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I think where you have it now, entering by Concord Street, I don't think that's sufficient to cover the vacuum area. I think you're all set for the, coming in with a parking, I mean, where the cars would park,
The vacuum.
getting ready to go into the bays, but I think once you hit the vacuum area, you're gonna have to pick up some type of snow storage there. Do you see what I'm saying, or do you?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, if you push it to the side, to the top right corner or somewhere until they come in and remove it, or somewhere like that?
Well, one thing you should know, this business accesses his building. He has a ramp here and a garage door through this existing property that Jeremy owns.
Okay,
So we're trying, when we positioned this curb cut, we did it opposite that so as to not restrict
okay,
his access to his building.
okay,
But we would have to rework that to.
okay. So you can put it maybe behind the dumpster to the left or somewhere? Okay, I'm just thinking, because I know pushing it all the way over to where your snow storage is, up to the top of corner of Concord Street, I think you'd be going against the grain, basically.
And you're right, and they're gonna wanna push it downhill anyway,
Right.
so.
So I'm just thinking if you could pick it up somewhere in your vacuum area, you know,
Okay.
pile it somewhere until it has to be trucked off-site. That's the question I had on there. So I know you'd have your, so you pick up, if you can pick up those barrels there into that dumpster and pick up that vacuum area for that snow storage. I know Attorney Flood commented on putting the signs in there for the pedestrians. Do you know what your hours of operation may be?
24 hours? Yeah, probably 24 hours where there's no employees.
I believe in our comment packet by all the city departments, there is a comment by the Assistant City Engineer. It says that you need plan with a survey control. These plans states, field survey, please submit plan with survey control, does not show drainage on site. Curb opening talks about violates the zoning of the ADA requirement, but I think, is that one of the things that you changed, Jack, when you submitted the new plan?
Yeah, what I did
Okay.
was, the survey control is shown on sheet 1 of 2. I saw Ronnie this morning, I gave him a copy of that plan. So, actually, I talked to Peter this morning, he's all set with it. As far as the ADA requirements, that's the reconfiguration of the curb cuts, and the drainage that he was looking for. I revised the plan to show 2 catch basins on the site, and tying into the existing street drainage in Perry Street.
And I noticed his comment picks up with one of the fellow board members indicated that he does not think there's enough parking for employees.
He was unaware that it was a totally automatic car
Okay,
wash.
all right. And the need the retaining design, did you go over that with him as well, or?
Yes,
Okay.
I gave him a detail
Okay.
on sheet 2.
Okay, and you took care of the wheelchair ramp, okay.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, say if the bay door's stuck, someone's in, you go to drive out, the door doesn't open, what do you do? You know, something malfunctions, I mean, just curious.
I don't have an answer.
I'm not, I'm just thinking, might as well ask.
There must be some
Shut the whole thing
emergency
down.
I mean, you know,
button or something that would.
yeah, I'm just thinking if there's an emergency button you push, or,
There must
I'm
be
sure there's more than a
inside.
suggestion box, or,
I'm sure it's designed for that. I never thought of that.
I was just curious what you say, you have people backing up to come in without an employee on site. I know some of those other ones that you've gone in before, you go to put your number in, you punch your code in, and the thing doesn't open, you get 5 people behind you honking on the horn, and you can't back out, you can't go forward, sort of in limbo. It's
It's a
happened to
very
me
good
once.
question, Mr. Lehman.
Happened to me once, in the Lynn site was self-service car wash.
Like the whole law
At
school
least
question.
that one, they had a gas station next door, you could get out, go next door, everybody leaned on their horn, and everybody looked at you, then you had to come back, then they had to reset it inside. So, just throwing that out as,
We'll check on that.
I mean, just out of curiosity.
Check on that.
All right. Is this the same type of car wash like the new one is up on Middlesex Street, where the whole car wash system moves back and forth and the car stays still?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, just like the new one Mr. Weezer put up on Middlesex Street?
I haven't seen that.
yeah.
Just
I
like
dri-
his? Yeah. Basically, you pull up to that one, the garage door opens, you pull in, it shuts, it sprays underneath, you get there, the car wash goes back and forth while you sit there. So it reminds me of a big MRI.
Big MRI.
That's what it reminded me
You
of.
got one too.
You enclose it, it just goes back and forth the whole time.
Big MRI.
That's what it looks like. I mean, and it counts the time and how many settings, and there's 8 different settings, and then when it's done, the door opens up and you dry out. Okay. So it's not on the track that moves you forward, just back and forth. Okay. I have no further comments. The only other thing I indicated was my concern on basically if the traffic did back up on Concord Street. I know it would be more difficult getting onto Concord Street if you were coming down Andover Street and cutting across, because at that point, going up Andover Street's 2 lanes, so you'd really have to cut across the 2 lanes to get in. Going up Andover Street, I know if you get into the right-hand lane, when you accelerate up, there'd be an easier turn to get onto Concord Street. I think coming down, cutting across the double lane, well, sometimes people see the first lane, if someone waves them on, and the people in the second lane don't see that coming by, it could be a problem, because right there between that bar establishment, the next set of lights, I know we've had some actions there before where young youth had a vehicle homicide because he ran in front of the cars that were stopped and it was accidental. But I mean, I know when you have the two lanes, people don't always check both lanes when they go to cut in. They see the first lane, then they continue to go without the other lane coming up the hill. So that was just a concern coming down and cutting in, which I think a lot of the other board members commented on. But,
Well, we'll consider these, and let's see what we can come up with, and
okay. So I have nothing further. Any other board members have anything further in regards to what I said, or any other comments?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I understand you'll be revisiting some of these issues, and, you know, as I look at the plan, your third lane appears to be just designated for somebody that wants to get back to use the vacuum area. Would that be fairly correct assessment? Okay.
Third clear.
Needs to get out of the queue and take
Get it-
off
get it,
for
yeah.
whatever reason? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So the people, I mean, the people that are using the car wash and then want to vacuum, they're going to exit the car wash, they're going to go out into Perry, presumably they're going to come back in the curb cut on Perry and vacuum in there. If they want to vacuum first, they're just going to get into that outside lane, vacuum, and then there's no way to get back into the car wash unless they go
all the way
around,
around, yeah.
back into the other entrance. Yeah, so it just seems to me that a lot of that area is dedicated to something that's probably not going to happen in terms of people coming in using the vacuum only. So,
Could be.
just a thought. Is 2 weeks sufficient for,
Ask the
Review?
engineer. Yeah.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we continue this matter for 2 weeks.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion, or all in favor?
I would just like to say that, you know, when you return with a new proposal, that you need to consider additional queuing for cars, need to provide maybe a safer egress for the exit of the car wash that's set back a little bit further from the street, as well as consider perhaps an additional parking spot. I know there's only one employee generally, but sometimes things go wrong. You may have a need to send another person up there, or maybe somebody's got to get out of line and put their car someplace for some reason. So if you can consider those things in your new proposal, that would be good. And one other thing, have you ever talked to the gentleman that owns the parking lot there to see if you can work out some kind of an arrangement where maybe you can, you know, I don't know, purchase some of that land or trade some of that land?
I have, I met with the owner. They don't have a problem with it during the day, it's at night, but they really need that additional parking.
Mm-hmm.
Just on a verbal note, she had said that we could use the lot at any time.
Right. I was just wondering if maybe, you know, the parking lot could potentially be down Perry Street a little way. Maybe you could work out an arrangement where, you know, they use a portion of your lane for parking and you use a portion of their lane for entering or exiting. I don't know, maybe that would help.
Well, maybe we can arrange for employee parking on their lot, too, which would take care of that
Maybe
issue.
Some of you
Yeah.
queuing.
Yep.
During the day.
Okay.
Okay, there's been a motion to continue the matter. I believe that matter was second.
Yes, I second
Okay,
that.
all in favor, say aye.
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 I believe our next meeting in 2 weeks is June 4th, is that correct, James? What we'll do is we'll keep the public hearing open until that date, so if anybody wants to come down and who hasn't spoke tonight, and would like to speak at a future date, the board members and we will entertain anybody who's here to speak on either one of the new additions. Thank you very much. Good luck.
If I may just briefly, Mr. Chairman, that meeting is going to be held here at 6:30 on June 4th, just for the formal announcement.
Thank you. The next matter we have is a special permit review on 133 Clark Road. The Lowell Planning Board will review an application by Mary Blazon for a special permit review for a project located at 133 Clark Road. This proposal plan takes the place of an approved 5-lot subdivision proposed for this site. The proposal includes the demolition of an existing single-family house on the site for the development of 2 lots fronting on Clark Road. One lot will have 40 feet of frontage on Clark Road and consist of 20,000 square feet of land area. The second lot will have 60 feet of frontage on Clark Road and 51,373 square feet of land on this area. The project is located in suburban single-family zoning district. The project requires special permit review under section 5.2.9, which talks about the frontage reduction for a large single-family area lot for this zoning ordinance. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, once again, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, representing Dave Blazon, brother William, his brother John, and his mother Mary, and also the purchaser, prospective purchaser of the property is Jeremy McSorley. And I think the notice speaks for itself. We are here requesting a special permit under 5.29 to allow the subdivision of the property into 2 separate lots with a frontage on one lot of 40 feet and the frontage on the other lot of 60 feet. If this is subdivided in this way, it cannot be further subdivided because you need a minimum of 40 for any lot, so it can't be done. So it would be a 2-lot subdivision. Like I said, Jeremy McSorley has an agreement to purchase the property, and if this is approved and he purchases the property, the Blazons are willing to dismiss the prior approval of the 5-lot subdivision. I mean, I think you can appreciate the plan as proposed will provide for just 2 homes and a heck of a lot more green space. There won't be a roadway there. I think the drainage would probably be the same. We petitioned the city council for an easement to go through the park in the back for the sewer to go down to Douglas Road, and that's in the law department now. So I know Jeremy's had communication with some of the neighbors, and I know that there was concern next door about the location of the driveway. And he just indicated to me, he had a meeting with Mrs. Nichols tonight, and if, we're more than willing to provide any kind of buffer she wants along her property if she had a concern. So I think we're here to hear any comments that the neighbors might have, what the board might have. But I think this is, it's a reduced plan of what was previously approved and probably better for the neighborhood. I'll turn it over to Jack that can explain the plan, and we'll be glad to answer any questions.
The mic, Jack. The mic.
If the board sees fit to grant the special permit, then this would essentially be an approval not required subdivision. Both lots would conform to zoning by way of the special permit. So what Jeremy's proposing is to put his own house on the large lot, and to put a second house on the second lot. There'd only be 2 houses. He would like to access the 2 by way of a common driveway, so that would further reduce the amount of pavement. Attorney Flood said he thinks the drainage would be about the same. I think the drainage would probably be less impact because previous to this, it was a 5-lot subdivision with a street up to city spec, which would require more paved area on the property than this a simple driveway would. So as far as the impact to the land, you know, it's basically 2 lots instead of 5, and no street. That's, again, the 2 houses would be serviced by city water and sewer. And if the special permit is granted, then we would come back to city engineer. He had some comments about the monuments and so forth. We haven't actually done the survey yet. If the special permit is granted, then we'll come back and provide all the survey information when we do the Form A plan. You know, would show the house, the grading, and the driveways and so forth.
It is registered land, so a little more engineering than normal, and it has to go through the land court, so once, if it is approved, then we will come back with that engineering.
Be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Do you have anybody else, Mr. Flood, who wants to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn it over to the public?
Nope.
No? Okay. Excuse me. Okay. At this point in time, anybody who would like to speak in favor of this project? Just come to the microphone and state your name, please.
Good evening. My name's John McQuaid. I live at 125 Clark Road. I guess if you look at the lot from Clark Road, I am on the right-hand side to the north of the site. This site actually wraps around my property. And when they previously went to the board, I had some concerns about where the road was going to be relative to, because it would have been very close to where my children play. We met the concerns, and we were all satisfied with the subdivision as approved. I recently saw this recent plan, and I would have to say that as a neighbor, I would be much more in favor of this plan than what was there previously. There'll be 2 lots. I believe the way this is structured, the houses will not be there will be any of the abutting neighbors will actually have houses now farther away than what they would have had under the previous plan, which is, to me, again, a great, relief as far as it's a great site, an odd-shaped site with open space. I mean, certainly they have the right to do what they had previously, which is a 5-lot subdivision. I believe what they've come with forward that I've seen, as long as the little house is taken down in the end, will actually enhance every abutter's value of their land. So to me, that's good planning. When somebody else can come into your neighborhood, do some type of subdivision and actually improve your value, I think anybody would vote for that. So I don't have any major concerns. I've seen some of the work that the prospective buyer has done in other properties that he owns. I'm sure this would greatly enhance the neighborhood, and I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you, Mr. McQuaid.
Thanks.
Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this point in time, hear from anybody who'd like to speak in opposition.
My name is Mark Cabral. I live at 155 Clark Road, and I have some questions regarding where the houses are going to be placed on those lots in reference to my house, which is 155.
Okay. We'd cover that when he comes in for site plan. Right now, it's just for the special permit to see if we're going to give him the waiver for the road width. So if he comes in for if he comes in for site plan, actually he'd have to meet all the criteria, which in that zone he'd have to have a minimum, as required, 10 feet per side, a total of 25 from any side lot area, and then he'd have to meet the requirement of rear yard work as well. So at this point in time, we do not know where the house would go.
Okay. And the other question I have is, you know, in reference to the street that's going to be created, you know, in order to have these, you know, houses put in there. Obviously, it's going to have to be a cul-de-sac. You know, is there going to be enough room in there for, you know, fire apparatus and everything else to get in and out? And, you know, is it going to create a problem on Andover Street as far as, you know, cars? It's a busy street as it is, coming in and out of that street again.
It's not going to be a cul-de-sac. Each lot's going to be a separate individual lot. So how would they be covered by fire apparatus? Would be same as everybody else on Clark Road. They'd come from on this side of Clark Road, and they'd bring their hoses in.
Okay, thanks.
They're not to do a cul-de-sac. They're going to, each lot's going to be addressed individually.
Before you leave the microphone, could I just ask you if you could tell us where your house is in relation to the plan?
What number, you're 155?
Yeah.
Okay, could you just tell Mr. Clement where your house is? Where were you located in regards to 133?
Two houses down.
Heading toward,
towards the Tewksbury.
okay.
Yes.
Down that way.
Okay, thank you. On the same side of the street as the project. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Right here, Mark Cable. Okay. All right. Anybody else like to speak in opposition?
Hello, my name's Patricia Nichols, and I live next door at 143 Clark Road. I have a question. I sold my land to the Blazons on May 27th, '05, and at the time, the 5-lot subdivision was what I sold the land based on, and I have it here that the buyer agrees his proposed subdivision shall be substantially the same layout as shown on preliminary subdivision, Clark Road subdivision by O'Hara Engineering, dated February 11, '05, for which David Blazon, which buyer has presented to seller, upon which the seller is relying upon when entering into this agreement. I just want to make sure, the attorney mentioned the road. The subdivision plan that I based selling my land on is not the same as what they're proposing now. The road is moved about, or driveway road is about 80 feet closer to my house than the subdivision that I signed on. And also, I'm just concerned about the size. When I sold my land to the Blazons, I was told that, you know, there were going to be 5 moderate-sized homes put in, and not that I'm against, I just want to make sure I get this in writing, but this house sounds like it's about almost the size of Long Meadow Golf Course, the clubhouse, which sounds quite large for the area. And that's about all. I just want to make sure that I do get in writing that the roadway will not be as close. I tried to contact all week, I spoke to Mr. Blazon 10 days ago about this, and he told me that he wasn't sure what the proposal was. I asked him to have Mr. McSorley contact me, and then I did try to talk. I spoke with Mr. McSorley tonight at 5:30, so I just got a look at what was going on, you know, about an hour prior to the meeting. So my concerns are that this isn't what I sold my land to them in the first place on, and just that the road's not too close to my house. And if we can straighten that out, then I would go along.
Is the piece of property on the land that looks like a garage, is that yours?
I sold behind
It looks like
my house. I sold
Okay.
20,000 square feet.
It shows an existing garage?
I
the
don't
plan?
have the plan here. The existing garage, I think on that is probably Blazon's garage.
Yeah, that was just,
This piece.
yeah.
Up here.
Is the pool on, if the pool is on that drawing, I sold the land behind the pool.
Okay,
All of this was not.
okay.
Okay?
Basically, we don't know what the size of the houses will be. All we know so far is what the size of the lots are. And then there is another thing that we've amended it in our zoning code. So basically, the houses cannot be bigger in size compared to what the lot requirements are. So basically, what happened down at Catlin Estates can't happen
Well,
anymore.
the road is the big,
Right.
the road looks like it's now right alongside my driveway,
Okay. Okay.
and that wasn't the original.
Thank you.
And if we can straighten that out.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Clark Road is a really nice street, as you know, and it's got a lot of nice homes and stuff like that. And if there is a proposal to put two, huge, magnificent houses that are going to dwarf all the other houses in the neighborhood and stuff like that, and it's going to do it just, justice to the neighborhood, I'd really appreciate it if you guys took it under advisement and, I'd hate to see any more, parts of Lowell or whatever just be destroyed.
The way they have it on their plan, they're going to have to come in, let's see, quite a distance before they can build their property. So most likely, you're not going to even see these houses that well from Clark Road. They're going to be set back. They're going to be behind Mr. McQuaid's house. They're going to be behind Ms. Nichols' house. So they're not going to be the same distance on the street because their roadway's coming in there. So they're going to be way back with that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that territory opens up behind Mr. Blazon's property now, and it goes down back where that park is, that's across the street from the school.
Right.
So basically, all that open land there, so the house will be located back further, so it won't be as close up to the street where all the existing houses are that are on Clark now, so you will not have a big, huge house facing Clark Road, set back by 75 feet. This will be, one of them goes back over 200 feet, the other one goes back over 200 feet as well, so they'll be set back quite a ways from the street.
But again, like I'm concerned, like Mrs. Nichols said, she sold her property behind her pool. That's right next to me. And I'm just, you guys, the board can't tell me right now how close that house is going to be to my property line. And, of course,
Right, we don't know because they haven't told us yet either. Right, okay. We'll ask that question.
All right, so before the permit's ever issued or anything,
Yep.
would I know that?
Yes, what they're looking for now is they're looking for a special permit. The reason being, from the special permit, under our section, which is on the 5.2.9, it talks about a frontage reduction. Usually they need 75 feet of frontage on Clark Road to build a single-family home. They don't have the 75. They have the 60, which is on the road, and the 40 that's on the road. Under our section 5.2.9, goes on and talks about frontage reduction on a large single-family lot. It states that the board can give a special permit on a large lot like that if they have a minimum of 20,000 square feet on one lot, which they do. They have 20,083, and the other one is they have, it's a minimum of, let me think, 40 lots are divided to man to leave the buildable lot, and so they have to have at least 40 foot of frontage, and the other one they can have 60 foot of frontage, which they meet here. So the question is, would we grant them the special permit because they have the oversized lots in the back? And that's what's before us tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Any of the board members have any questions or concerns? Yes, Joe, you want to go first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. Obviously, we don't have the plans in front of us as to what you propose to do in terms of siting the two houses and where the proposed driveway is going to go, but is that plan completed at this point, or is that still being formulated?
Where the house is going to be, we have an idea where they're going to be, but we don't, and as far as that gentleman's concerned, the house on that side would be very similar location as the prior plan that was approved. And I think you can show where the other house is going to be approximately, Jack. It's way in the back.
So both the house and the garage on this plan will be coming down?
Right. The house and the garage are coming down.
One house obviously is going to be back in here somewhere, in the wide part of the lot. This house is probably going to go over in this area here.
When it would have to be, because when the Blazons purchased the properties from Mrs. Nichols, there was there was a portion of the agreement that survived that says that he could not build a house on Lot 1 that was closer to Clark Road than, I think it was your garage? Yeah. So it's going in the back. It's where the other one's going to be, so that's not going to be... Now, as far as the driveway is concerned, I don't think that's definitely been decided yet. It would probably, I don't know, would go between the two lots to service both of them with a common driveway agreement. If the concern is the location and the existence of cars, we have no problem in putting trees or arborvitaes or whatever along her boundary line, which would give her more protection if that's what your concern is. Because it's not going to be a roadway, it's just going to be a common driveway.
Well, it sounds to me like when she sold the property, there might be some contractual obligation that says, you know, this is the plan such as it is, and this is what I'm agreeing to. I think obviously most people would agree that reducing the density from 5 houses to 2 is a good thing, and she probably agrees as well. But from what I'm getting, the concern is the location of where that driveway is going to be. Whether it's been moved closer to her property than what the original plan was. So I don't know if that's something you can work with her on.
The only thing that survived the purchase was the location of that house. I have that agreement, and it does survive. And that was to be put on the land court certificate.
What do you anticipate the length of the driveway then to be servicing the back house?
Going to be close to 200 feet.
Gotta be at least more than
Right. What's the maximum length as far as
200 feet.
200 feet, yeah.
So there's a chance we might have to be back here anyways.
Yeah.
If this is approved, if it's over 200 feet.
Okay. The previous approval, and maybe you can refresh my memory, I know we had some sort of an easement or something built in the conditions to access the back property owned by the city.
Yeah, we've requested, and that's at the law department, we requested, an easement for the sewer line, gravity feed sewer line down through the park in the back. And that's been presented to the city council, and it was forwarded to the law department for final drafting.
Mr. Flood, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you also gave, on the previous plan, an easement to Mr. McQuaid, so he could go out of his house and go to his backyard.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
I remember that was a question Mr. McQuaid had, that was one of the many questions Mr. McQuaid had at the last meeting. Okay. So there was 2 easements, if I remember, serves me correctly. Right, thank you.
Right, but
Go ahead, Joe.
the
Yeah.
roadway in the other plan was located on the other side of the property.
Okay.
Over there, I have the other plan with me.
Okay.
Well, I think in general terms, I think obviously reducing from 5 to 2 is a good idea. I would like to see, if possible, if you've got even some preliminary plans as to where the driveway's going to go, where the houses are going to be sited, and the approximate size of the houses, it might help us as a board to render a decision on that, but that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members at this time? Yes, Mr. Genvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm a neighbor of this development as well. I met Mr. McSorley the other day when he was going out and talking to the neighbors. I don't know if you knew I was on this board at that time. I suspect not, but welcome. So I agree. I think moving the development from 5 houses to 2 houses is a good thing. I think everybody in the neighborhood would probably agree to that. I have a couple of concerns. One is I hate to see us creating lots with such odd shapes. You know, this is kind of a, I don't know what you call it, some kind of hexagon that we got going here. And is it possible to take that property line on the lot that's now 20,000 square feet and just continue it? And probably even match it up with the city property line there, so we have one continuous line. It'll make that lot larger, but what we're creating here is kind of a dead spot over there anyway. Would that be something that you could consider?
I think he has plans for something in that area, Mr. Chairman.
Something,
This corner down here?
yeah, this corner down here?
Yep.
Something for the house that goes on the larger lot?
No. He's thinking maybe something for the kids down in that area.
I see.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And it would have to be associated with the larger lot, not the smaller lot?
Yeah, right, because for his family.
Mm-hmm. I see. So you're intending to live on this lot, and you're trying to maximize your own land area, basically?
He's going to live there, yes.
I see. How about, could you square it off? The only thing I'm getting at is, if somebody wants to, I mean, years from now, you move, somebody else moves, somebody might want to put a fence on that lot and get this kind of diagonal property line. Have you ever considered, squaring that property line off, just so we're not creating such a strange shaped lot?
Well, at this point, I don't think he really would like to do that. If it comes in the future where he's not using it, then you could come in with an A&R plan and have that parcel, attached to the other one if someone wanted to buy it. But I think he intends to use it for children's play area or something.
Okay. The other question I had was about further subdivision. James, maybe you could tell us, what are the possibilities of taking this lot that is now 51,000 square feet and further subdividing it so that, in other words, coming before the planning board again for yet another site approval for a new subdivision there?
Correct. With the larger lot, there appears, I'm not an engineer, so I can't just lay something out on there, but it appears like there may be enough room to possibly do some sort of subdivision in the future, whether it's through the similar processes here or through maybe creating a roadway and putting just a mini cul-de-sac in the back there. That is something to consider when reviewing this special permit, and part of the special permit process, and a condition of the special permit could be to limit such use, meaning you can limit the use to just exactly what is being proposed tonight, which is a single-family house on that lot. That can be a condition of the approval if the board wishes. I'd like to, if the board does wish, I'd like to leave that open to allow our law department to explore the best option for ensuring that, whether it's through a deed or whatever that may be, or whatever.
We could put a deed restriction. Deed restriction on it would be no more than 2 lots. I mean, I know what you're saying, but the only way it could be done is if he brought a roadway in. He can't further subdivide that larger lot because he'd need 40 feet of frontage on both lots, and he's only got 60 there.
Well,
so
unless you got some kind of waiver for that, right?
I'd have to come in front of this board to do
Right,
it.
right.
But he could, I mean, there's enough room for a roadway because you'd only need the 50 feet for the roadway, but I don't
Sure.
think that, but he intends to live there, so I have no problem with the deed restriction, that it will not be further subdivided,
Okay.
because that's his intention.
So if you're open to that, that would be,
Yeah.
would be fine. That would really kind of alleviate some of my concerns, honestly, about the kind of appendage in the back there too, because that could be something that could be used to boost the land area so that you could put further additional houses on that
I know what you're saying.
smaller area.
Yeah, he has no intention, he's going to live there himself.
Okay. All right, so if you're open to that, then that's better. The other concern I have is, Mrs. Nichols' concern about the driveway. It seems like, in good faith, she sold that land expecting the road to be a certain distance from her house. I think it would be good if we could come up with a compromise so that she feels comfortable that the driveway road, call it what you will, it's still an access for cars, is far enough away that she doesn't feel as though her commitment has been broken.
Based on looking at this plan, I would think we'd probably have to come back to you anyways for special permit on the length of that roadway, because if you just look at the boundary between lots 17 and 18, up to the point where we'd have the house, it's 202 feet. So it would lead me to believe, and Jack, I can't see how you could do it otherwise. So I think we'd have to come back to you anyways for a special permit for the additional length of the roadway, and at that time, we'd have to present you with a plan of where it's going to be. Because there's no other way we can fit a house in there.
So you're thinking that the driveway, how long is this? This is 219 feet, right, the length of the land?
No, just this boundary, Mr. Chairman, is 202 from here to here.
Oh, okay.
So, and this is where the house would be back here. So would be well over 200 feet.
So Mrs. Nichols was saying that the driveway is going to be 80 feet closer to her property than was the road.
Well, I don't think it's 80 feet because
The frontage is only 100 feet. So are you moving the roadway completely from one side to the next, or?
well, The roadway was 40, well, it was a 24-foot travelway. The frontage is 100. I think we had a waiver of sidewalks, I think. So that would be 80 feet from the edge of that travelway to her boundary line. Now, that's on the old plan. We intend to, the driveway proposed is, I don't know how far, what were you originally thinking, Jack? How far up from her line?
At this point, we really don't know. We envision that the driveway would be somewhere in this area, and we were proposing maybe to have a common driveway to service both of the houses. But at this point, we don't know for sure where it's going to be. We haven't done the site plans yet. We don't even have a building footprint, a firm building footprint yet. He hasn't talked to the architect to design the house. All of this, what we're going through the special permit here, if that's granted, then he will expend some funds, hire an architect, get the plan, probably do a landscape plan as well, and then we would know for certain where we want to propose the exact location of the driveway.
So let me just ask then, are you open to working with Mrs. Nichols to make sure that everybody feels comfortable about the location of the driveway?
Absolutely.
Okay, so given the fact that you're probably going to be back before us for a site
I
plan
think he's gonna
review
have
on
to
the
be.
thing, and the fact that you expressed willingness to work to make sure that everybody feels comfortable about that driveway location, I think that looks pretty good.
Jerry, any questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification. Although it was indicated that the length of the driveway would require a special permit if you're looking beyond the 200 feet. But just so I understand, because it's an indicated site plan, we approved this tonight, and it didn't need the special permit for the length of the driveway. That would be an A&R lot. That would be subject to the building department issuing the permit. Or am I wrong on that? Just so I for my own...
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I
Sure.
can clarify.
Go ahead, please, James.
Essentially, yes, tonight is for the subdivision of the lot into the two lots as you see. However, as soon as a building permit would be sought for the construction of a house with a driveway in excess of 200 feet, that would trigger that next special permit.
But if it wasn't for the length of the driveway, this would be the last time we see it.
Correct.
That's correct. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood
Yes,
that.
if the driveway was 190 feet,
Right.
they could move forward tomorrow
Right.
with the building.
Okay. I just
Well,
wanted
as
to
soon
make-
as everything's taken care of.
Yeah,
But
I just think people thought there was probably another shot at it. But, I mean, I think there is because of the length of the driveway, but I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Right.
That's the only reason.
There's no way, it's going to have to be over 200 feet, Jerry, because
Right.
and the zoning says from the roadway to the front of that house, so it's,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah, just to comment that, obviously, I think, density is always an issue in going from the five-house subdivision to two homes on, especially lots that are of this size. I think certainly will serve the neighborhood very well, and I trust it'll probably one of the, no slight to the neighbors at all, my colleague, but it'll probably be one of the better landscaped houses in the area, so I certainly think that it appears, at least at this point, will be an asset to the area.
Thank you. One of the questions I have is, you talk about a common driveway. I mean, with house lots of 20,000 square feet and 51,000 square feet, I mean, you got good-sized lots there. Can you create it so they each have their own driveway?
Well, we could, Mr. Lehane, but I think, as far as Mrs. Nichols is concerned, it'd be better if we had a common driveway, because that way we can locate it further from her property. I mean, there is a provision that allows for common driveway in our zoning.
Yeah. I know, and a lot of times, we have allowed them, but I can't recall when one lot's been over 50,000 square feet, though, you know? I know you can do them, but usually if you have a lot this big, I mean, it's nice to have your own driveway. If you have 50,000 square feet, nice to be able to have your own driveway.
Well, if we did it, it would be closer on her side than it would be with the common.
Unless you did two driveways and granted an easement to lot 18
Do two drive,
for driveway purposes. I'm just thinking of, you have two really nice lots, good-sizing lots. And And, you know, the problem always is when you have the common driveway, it's gonna come down to, you have a nice home, beautiful neighborhood, everything's nice. Question is, who gets up first and plows the driveway?
Jeremy, because he's got the equipment.
Okay? Jeremy happens to go on vacation, the crew's not there. Jeremy sells the house to someone the next day. He doesn't like to do it. You get a nice elderly couple there, they go to Florida for the winter. Lot 18 plows the driveway. I mean, it's just a concern. I know we've done it before a lot of times in more condensed neighborhoods, but in an area like this,
Well,
I know most of the people on Clark Road, since, you know, I used to live on Clark Road for a long period of time. My father still lives right up the street from there. I mean, everybody else has their own nice driveways. It's a beautiful area up there. Just thinking if people could have their own entranceway too, you know, could cut down future friction between neighbors.
Well, we could. I mean, like I said, we haven't finalized the plan yet, but I think
Just something to consider.
what we were trying to work out was a common driveway that would probably benefit everybody. And as you're aware, under our zoning, in order to have a common driveway, you have to have a writing to put on record that would outline everybody's duties. So I think that's right in our zoning.
Yep, I recall it's in there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, a lot of times we don't see it in this open space neighborhood. I do like the fact of this development better than the last development. And the last one, I know you're talking about 5 lots. I think the vote on the board last time was 4 in favor and 1 against, and I voted against it. Some of the
Absolutely right.
concerns that came up at the last time, some of the neighbors who spoke, besides Mr. McQuaid, some of their concerns were the neighbors across the street with the lights going into their home. Some of the concerns were how busy Clark Road was and the bend in the road there. With the bend in the road, the dangerousness for the traffic after coming up past Havilah Street. Some of the concerns were also some of the neighbors wanted that big tree to remain in the front, if I remember correctly. But I think this project would be better suited in the neighborhood to have the 2 lots instead of the 5. I believe what some of the concerns were, the cars on the road, how they tried to slow down the traffic on Clark Road in the past. And, you know, they painted the road, then they stopped the road, then they painted it back, and it still didn't slow it down. I think with 2 would have less of an impact. I know it's a beautiful lot back there. I go by there just about every day, at least once. But I think it could be a nice project that does work. But the only, so those are basically my comments. Any other questions of board members at this time?
Mr. Chairman, just one comment. We've had a lot of discussion about the location of the driveway, and I understand it's not quite set in stone as to where it would be. And in fairness to Ms. Nichols, I'm wondering if the board was inclined to grant the special permit tonight, would you be willing to consider a condition that says you come back here concerning the location of the driveway, you know, bearing in mind you're probably going to have to come back for the length anyway?
No problem, no problem.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any board members have any further discussion as to what Mr. Claremont brought up?
Just have one comment.
Sure.
I'm not particularly in favor of the odd-shaped lot you've come up with here, but I think in total, what you're proposing will make the land work and be developed responsibly. My only other concern would be the location of the driveway too, but I think we've gone far enough with that. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else, Steve?
I had one other thing. First of all, you can't put a car wash on this, can you?
I don't think so. I don't think it's zoned for it. It's all single-family residence.
A hose.
I had a question about
Plenty
the
room for vacuuming,
existing ruling by the planning board to allow a 5-house subdivision. That still exists, right, James?
Correct.
Yep.
That's still valid today.
But I think I made a representation that if you approve this and he purchases the property, then we will give the planning board anything they want in writing to terminate the prior approval.
So that's what I was getting at. Is there a way we could legally terminate?
Put it as a condition that would be
Condition.
voided.
But he's got to buy it first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the site plan, then we'd have a deed restriction saying that 51,000 square foot lot could not be further subdivided.
Yep.
We'd also terminate the existing 5-unit subdivision
Upon purchase, yes.
and would have the requirement for coming back to us for the location of the driveway.
Right.
Okay,
You
sounds
could put
great.
those all under conditions for the special permit and, correct, we could do that. Mr. Gentleman, yep.
If I may briefly, Mr.
Sure,
Chairman.
Mr. Erickson, yep.
That, just to make sure you're aware, with the approval with those conditions, that still doesn't necessarily go into effect until the A&R plan is filed and those restrictions are actually fully filed and endorsed by the applicant as well. So even though the approval may go down tonight and I may file a decision letter with the clerk's office, the subdivision plan is still on the books until an A&R plan is created, signed, and then filed with the registry of deeds.
And if the applicant doesn't purchase the property, the 5-lot subdivision
Yeah,
stays in effect.
he's got to
Correct.
purchase it.
Stays.
I just want to make sure that was known out there.
Any further discussion as a result of anything else that James or other board members have mentioned?
Have none.
You have none?
Mr. Chairman, I'll
Motion?
move that we approve the site plan, subject to certain conditions, one being a deed restriction.
Excuse me, Steve, I think you mean special permit, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
meant, special permit.
Okay.
With the conditions, one being a deed restriction that would not allow the 51,373 square foot lot 17, to be further subdivided. Another one being that, what was the other one? That we would, you would come back before us regarding the
on the
location
driveway,
of the
right.
driveway, and that you would terminate the existing
Upon his purchase.
5-lot subdivision upon
Previously
his
approved, right.
purchase.
So you made a motion that we approve the special permit with those three conditions as outlined, correct? Anybody-
For
Discussion?
discussion, Mr. Chairman, I believe that the 5-lot subdivision did have some conditions concerning easements to the back portion of property owned by the city. I'd like to incorporate the conditions of the previous 5-lot subdivision as they relate to the easement portion into this
Okay, no problem, because that's in the works.
Right.
That's in the works.
as well.
Anybody, Steve, do you have any problems with that amendment to the motion for the easements for the city to get the
No, Mr.
utilities in
Chairman,
there?
that's fine.
Okay. Any board members have any further discussion in regards to the three conditions that Mr. Genman's imposed, and as well, Mr. Clement imposed here for the easement? No? Okay. Any other conditions that the board feels appropriate? Hearing none, we have a motion made. Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So the special permit is approved with the conditions as outlined.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, good luck, and we'll be seeing you in the future.
See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think so. Interesting case.
Yeah, well, you didn't have.
Yeah. Right.
Moving along on the agenda, under other businesses, we have notices from abutting towns. Board members have a chance to look at the notice from abutting towns. Any concerns or questions?
A motion to place on file, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's moved
Second
and
the
second.
motion.
All in favor, say aye. Matters of file. General correspondences. I believe some of the board members and myself, we received a notice for a neighbor up on Pine Street is appealing our decision for the
Oh, yeah.
approval from the Maury School. So basically, I believe all the other board members got this. This was a matter that we voted on to approve the Maury School on Pine Street, and we imposed several conditions with the applicant coming back before us for certain conditions. I know myself have received an appeal that was filed on behalf of one of the neighbors, so that matter will be moving forward and be handled by our law department. Anybody else will receive the notice of these here, we just pass them to the department, and they will forward them to the city solicitor's office, and they will handle the appeal on behalf of the planning board. We also have the zoning board legal notices. These are matters that go before the zoning board of appeals. They come before us first for a recommendation only, and these are matters that can be considered that will be taken up by the zoning board of appeals on May 30th at 6:30 here in the city council chambers. The first matter is a special permit for a sign. This is Saints Memorial Medical Center on 280 East Merrimack Street. This is in a downtown mixed use to allow the internally illuminated of a wall sign to be located at the Saints Memorial Medical Center parking garage, according to section 6.3.9 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. So they look like they want to put a sign on their garage. There's a couple of pictures in the packet, shows pictures of the garage, and I'm not exactly sure by the pictures where they want to put the sign.
It's hard to say.
I can't tell exactly. I don't know if they want to put it coming in the entrance or on the side of the street, but, James, does anybody from Division of Plan Development might know where they want to put the sign? Do you have any idea? I'm not sure.
It looks like it's just at the very top. The
the
pictures
picture there?
aren't the clearest, obviously, but
Yeah.
if you look at some of the pictures, that shows just the edge of the parking garage itself. At the very top level, it looks like there's some space of concrete that doesn't have an opening to the garage itself.
I think that would be on East Merrimack Street, I believe.
Right,
By
I believe
looking at
it's-
it, I don't think it'll be facing,
Oh, yeah, coming up to East Merrimack.
It looks like
Yeah.
it's facing sort of the Belvedere direction as opposed to the river direction. I could be wrong,
I don't think it's,
however.
up where the lights are. I think it's more, if you were heading into the parking of the garage, would be to your right, so it would be facing the
It'll
sign.
be
actually-
facing downtown.
Downtown, actually, the sign, yeah.
Okay.
Because the garage jets in there, then it propels out a little bit to where the parking entrance is.
Yeah, that's
So it really wouldn't be facing up by the, towards the Andover Street section, it'd be facing more towards the downtown area, if that picture is accurate.
That looks correct.
I think it just says, the sign looks like it just says Saints Medical Center. I don't think it says the word parking on it, but.
Right. I do know, if I may just explain a little bit, Mr. Chairman, I know Saints has gone through a new marketing revamping of their name, their signage, their look, and I guess obviously signage is one of those, and it doesn't appear to be, this signage doesn't appear to be in a place that they had a current sign.
No, it doesn't have
So
one
it
there now,
is a
no.
new
It's up a little
sign
higher,
for their,
right.
because I know they've replaced a lot of their current signage.
See, the other one you have when you pull into the site on East Merrimack Street, there's one right there, just tell them to come in this way. Actually, I can remember when we approved this parking lot, Saints only wanted you to have access from from one way. It was one of our board members that suggested open it up into the street as well, so you could come from the hospital as well as to the street, so the traffic would flow better. And after consideration of the board members that evening, they designed to open up the parking this way. Before, it was just it wouldn't come onto East Merrimack Street. You'd have to go through the hospital and back out and around and go back up the other way. And we suggested, if you open it up, it might flow a lot nicer. Unfortunately, I've been down there a lot lately, and it does flow a lot better. I mean, I'm in there on a regular basis now, but
An MRI.
it does move in. I mean, it makes a lot,
I
area.
have a question. Does the person that reviews signage in DPD have an opinion on this? This is rather large, it's like 3 foot by 20 feet. And it,
Right.
I'm just, and
I
it's difficult to
haven't-
see where it is. I'm just wondering if they have an opinion on this.
I haven't received an opinion from that person yet, no.
Is it still Diana Triad that?
It is still Diane Trad, yes. She's been very busy with
right.
many other initiatives.
This is a pretty major signage, going to be very, very visible. I'd probably recommend that we submit that, if we haven't already, to Diana Triad for
Yes.
her review
I
and
would-
recommendation
I'll
before the
second
ZBA.
If, she does receive copies of all the packets, similar to how we receive copies. I get a copy, the historic board gets a copy, she gets a copy for review. Sometimes it's just not time effective for her to do it for the planning board meeting,
Right.
since we do get the copies
But she'll always have a recommendation before the ZBA.
Yes, she does provide, as soon as she sees the signage, she knows that, okay, ZBA meeting's when, I provide recommendation at that time.
Well, I just recommend that we rely on her reference and recommendation before the ZBA.
Okay, motion made.
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So we vote to have the matter reviewed by the signed planner before it goes to the zoning board of appeals and follow through with her recommendation. The next matter is Albert Stamp, 21 Eugene Street. This is a traditional two-family. They're looking for a variance to construct a single-family on an undersized lot with insufficient frontage and to exceed the maximum required front yard setback according to Article 5, Section 5.1, Table of Dimensional Requirements. This has been before the board on at least 3 occasions. When it first came in for the variance, then it came, we made a recommendation, then it came back for the substantial material change, and I believe we approved for this material substantial change, and now it's back requesting the variances. So it does look familiar to us because it has been here on a couple of occasions. I believe, Steve, this is the one you had concerns of last time when we voted for substantial material change because you thought it was undersized. I still think myself it's undersized. I knew that was when I had the boulder up there. They removed the boulder and brought it down,
Yeah.
right off Barica Street.
Yeah.
I think it's still undersized, and I'm not inclined to vote in favor, but that's my perceptive on it. I don't know what the other board members feel.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mr. Chairman. I guess we did find that it was a substantial and material change so that they could go before the ZBA.
Right.
But it's my feeling that the lot's too small, it's a very crowded area, and, you know, my recommendation would be that we suggest denial by the
So
planning
the motion to
board.
recommend denial because of the fact it's too small for that neighborhood up there. It doesn't fit in as well.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So the vote is 5-0 against. The next matter is Stephen Avila for a variance at 47 New Castor Drive. This is suburban single-family. Construct rear addition with insufficient side yard setback and enclosed front porch with insufficient front yard setback in accordance with Article 5, Section 5.1, Lowell zoning ordinance, Table of Dimensional Regulations. We do have a copy of a plan in the packet. I know this is more up at Jerry's neck of the woods, literally up by the neck of the woods there. And I think they're missing some footage for the foyer in front, and they do have a problem with the side yard.
Side yard
For the side yard, he needs a minimum of 10, a total of 25, so he has 8.1 and 10.1, which even if you, since he has a minimum of 10 on one side, that means 10.1, he'd need almost 15 on the other side. So he's missing, and also he has in the front, he wants that, what do they call it, the front foyer should be back 25, and it's only back 15.
I don't necessarily have an issue with the frontage, Mr. Chairman. He's not changing anything in the front. That's what's pre-existing. In the back is where he runs into the issue, and when he filled out the application, he put that he's provided 8.1 and that he needed 1.9, but as you've pointed out, he actually needs close to 15 over there and not 8.1 because you have the sum of 25. So he's actually missing by about 7 feet.
17 feet.
Right. Because, as it indicates, you need a minimum of 10 for a total of 25, so I mean, if he has 10 on one side like he does, then he needs a total of 15 on the right side.
Right, it's the screen porch on the left side that
Right.
reduces him there, right? Because
Existing screen porch.
he had
right.
18, but with the screen porch, it reduces the
Right.
side yard to 10.
So if he didn't have the screen porch, and he had the regular porch that's 18 plus, and now when he does a proposed addition, he is 8.1, he'd only be off 1.9, which would be really kind of de minimis, really,
Minimum.
When now he's gonna be non-conforming on both sides instead of having one side where he's only off less than 2 feet, which usually I know a lot of times when it comes down to a foot or two, most times you don't have too much opposition from your neighbors because it's not really encroaching that much more. It's usually just minor, but now you're picking up on both sides.
Although I would say, Mr. Chairman, we're doing the sum depending upon what that neighbor feels on that. on
Right
the
side, yeah.
Right side, it actually is 2 feet. Right now, it's at 10.1.
Yeah, it's gonna be 2 feet, okay, yeah.
And
yeah.
it's going to be reducing it. Again, I understand, from a zoning perspective, looking at the sum of the two sides, but I think it's one of those, if the abutter is comfortable with it.
Changing 2 feet.
Yeah, I think obviously, like, as you indicate, it's gonna affect the people to the right. I believe now formerly the Morissettes.
It is a two-story addition, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be significant. It's a 20-foot-long, two-story addition. You know, I'm not sure what the abutter sees there, but, you know, it's very much relying on what their opinion is of the construction.
I mean, he does have quite a bit of development on the site. He has a porch, a screen porch, a deck, a new proposal, a foyer, a shed, proposed two-car parking. Only thing missing is the pool, I guess.
I was just gonna
Unless
say,
he
we
has
should
that
get
in
a
the
pool
back.
in there, would be
It
all
could be in the
set.
back, I don't know, but yeah, it's just about everything else, all the extremities on the, you got the bulkhead out back, but that usually goes down to second floor. Then on the new proposed addition, he has the second floor deck as well.
At one
Based-
time, we had proposed some change in the zoning ordinance that indicated that if your proposed addition would not encroach any more than what you have already, if you're non-conforming, then it would be considered for approval. And I think that that's something that may apply, you know, in this case. It looks like he's going to take down that deck, put on a little one-story addition where that, I guess, bulkhead is now, and then propose the addition of 2 stories. I'd like to recommend approval, provided he doesn't encroach any more than he's already encroaching, which is the 10.1. Keep it within that limit.
So basically, you don't want the 8.1, you think if he can
Move
maintain it,
back a little bit, yeah.
so
So, just a question on that. Why would we recommend approval then? Because he's 8.1 now, right?
With the condition.
His proposal is 8.1. What I'm recommending is that his proposal be kept at 10.1, which is his current sideline setback.
I see.
I guess,
Not make it any,
Redo the
not make
plan.
it any more
Yeah.
non-conforming than it is already.
so I guess, for discussion, we could either approve it and tell him to change the plan, or we can vote on the plan the way it's presented, indicating that we vote denial, but we would have no problem if he keeps it at the 10.1. Is it that way, is that?
That would be my thought on that.
So basically, if we look at how the plan is presented to us now, I think Attorney Claremont is saying is, if we word it, his motion, that we deny the plan as proposed, but if the plan came in and chopped off that right corner and made it stay 10.1 instead of the 8.1, then it would be no more encroachment that there is now. So the encroachment would stay the same, then we would be in favor of it being the 10.1 instead of the 8.1. So
Or he might move the entire addition over 2 feet to
Yeah.
keep it in compliance
Yeah,
more
with
likely.
what he's got now.
Yeah,
Right.
whatever, however. he
I think
wants it.
the best way to handle it would be to make the motion to deny, and then we can say, we have, as it stands, we're not in favor of the plan, but we'd have no objections if he maintained the new proposed 2-story addition to maintain the 10.1 side yard setback throughout the site on the right-hand side.
Yeah. I'll
that's
second
fair.
that
Is
motion.
that fair enough?
Yeah,
All board members agree what I'm trying to say?
yeah.
So basically,
That makes sense.
so Attorney Claremont brought out, we have no problem doing it as long as he maintains his side yard to be 10.1 on the right-hand side. So the motion would be, motion to deny, but we have no problem if he wants to change the 8.1 to keep it, to maintain it to the 10.1. You got that, James? Did we complicate that enough on the motion, or did? So we recommend denial as the plan is now, with the comment, would have no problems going along with approval if he can maintain the existing side yard distance setback of 10.1 on the right side.
Okay.
So he's 8.1, if he can maintain it to the 10.1, we'd have no problem with that, as discussion. So we'd vote to deny and emphasize we'd have no problem with it being 10.1.
Okay.
Yes.
I have, if I can briefly talk on that, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Claremont did talk about the idea that if you're not creating any more nonconformity, there are stipulations in the zoning that does allow that. And that does fall under section 4.5, and there's various regulations in 4.5 depending on what you're doing. So for example, in this case, it's a single-family house in a single-family district. They would be allowed to go move forward without any sort of permitting if they did keep that encroachment at or below what the current nonconformity is. So the fact that they're going to 8.1 actually is the trigger for the variance and for any sort of permitting from the Zoning Board of Appeals. If they do keep it at 10.1, that's under the discretion of the building commissioner to say, okay, you're keeping it at 10.1, you're not encroaching any closer, and therefore you're allowed to get your building permit. So if they do remove that 8.1 setback and they go to the 10.1 setback, they actually don't need to come in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So we're just rejecting it then, where the condition goes without saying.
Yes, essentially, yep. I just
we're
want to make sure
recommending
you are
rejection
aware
of the
that it
ZBA.
is in our zoning, and we do have that stipulation in there. And it would be easier if the applicant didn't actually, if the building was moved over 2 feet, they actually would be able to build right now.
Right.
In some sense.
So I think the theory behind it is if you maintain it, it's been there, people are comfortable with it, it's not doing any further encroachment. And that's a lot of the discussion that went into the zoning in regards to that.
Exactly, correct.
Moving along, do we have any other further comments from planning board members? If not, I have one. Anybody else have any further comments? I've been handed a letter from the city law department in regards to the Pathfinders project on Rock Street. This is from Attorney Eric Slagle. He asked Planning and Development to speak with me about this, and has a letter, and they wanted us to go into executive session to discuss the matter. My comment is, I feel uncomfortable going to executive session without an attorney here from the law department to tell us what their opinion of the matter is. I know that the planning board took action on this matter. We spoke our concerns, indicated our concerns, and we have a letter in regards to the case that's pending, and it's due before the court for a summary judgment on May 25th. I just received a copy of it tonight, so I'm inclined not to go into executive session without the city solicitor or the assistant city solicitor here to give them our concerns. I don't see why we should go into executive session without the attorney present. I think what I'll do is, on this matter, we'll place it on file. What I'll do is I'll make sure that all the board members do get a copy, and I myself will be speaking with Mr. Slagle tomorrow to let him know what my concerns are, because by just reading it tonight, some of the concerns that he put in the letter omits a lot of things that the board did discuss the night of the hearing. So upon that, I will make sure that everybody has a copy tomorrow, and all the board members can have a chance to review it. There is some case law cited in his letter to us. As I indicated, when I see case law cited to me as an attorney, I usually try to read the cases before I make a decision on it, and not just read the excerpts that the attorney points out to me. I think that was one of the concerns I had when we had the public hearing, when the counsel for Bridgewell started citing cases. He didn't show us those cases. He didn't give them to us ahead of time. We did not have the right to digest those cases. As I said tonight when we commented on the minutes, basically, how we said that, if someone ties someone's shoe, it's an educational use, and it's exempt from us. I felt that they feel comfortable about that and their support. Just give us the case law ahead of time. I know I'm not the only attorney on this board, but as an attorney, if you give me case law, I will read the case law, and whether I agree or not, then I can make a factual finding or make comment on those. So in this matter, I'm not inclined to go into session. I'll make sure all board members get a copy of this tomorrow. Any comments do we have? I think each one of us, we want to respond on it, can respond to the assistant city solicitor. And I just received it tonight, so I think I'm not going to ask any comments from the members, just give them a copy of it and have a chance to digest it, and if they have any questions. If I indicated if they wanted to call a meeting for an executive session, I'd be more than happy to poll all the board members and make that opportunity available. So saying that, I'll close that at this point in time.
May I comment briefly,
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
I had a chance to briefly review that executive summary that you have in front of you, and I agree with you in terms of executive session. At this point, without a solicitor being present, it wouldn't really serve any purpose. But certainly, if you're speaking with the solicitor, if he wants to contact any or all of us to get our opinions, we're happy to do that. If he wants to call a meeting to express those opinions directly, we'd be happy to do that. My concern is that it appears from that directive that the thing is scheduled for a summary judgment hearing fairly shortly. I'm not certain if the date is specified in
Yeah, I
there.
mean, the thing is, it's dated to me, Thomas Lenahan, Chairman, Lowell Planning Board. The date on this matter is May 11th, 2007. I got it today, 10 days later. I know they have my address. I'm also, even in the phone book, for that matter. And my address is there, where it's been since I started on this board 23 years ago. I haven't moved. So if they wanted to mail me something, I'm sure I'd get it. And then to tell us that summary judgment is due May 25th, and please give us a comment.
All right, maybe I misunderstood. I thought that the hearing was scheduled for 25th.
I'm looking forward to a response. Keep in mind that the opposition to the summary judgment motion is due May 25th.
All right, and then perhaps what's happening is when the summary judgment motion was filed, they request an opposition from the city to be filed by May
Okay.
25th, not necessarily at the hearing is that
So the
date.
opposition.
So they need to put together their opposition by that date. That would make more sense to me, because at this point, their opposition would have been in. But if they haven't filed the opposition yet, I would certainly invite the solicitor's office to get in touch with all of us. I think we all had fairly strong feelings about that hearing that evening, and we can express our thoughts to him and have him handle that appropriately.
I was also informed that the law department may request more time to file the opposition. That would be totally up to the law department. But saying then, I don't know why it's dated 5/11 and we get it 10 days later.
Yeah.
If time, especially if time's of the essence, I mean.
It's all right.
But, moving on, if we have nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. Briefly, I can ask Attorney Slagle to either contact you tomorrow or
Sure.
however that works. I received that memo this afternoon at 4:30, so that's
I know James didn't have,
why.
and I've indicated I have no problem with you passing it on to us. You know, I know that you only get it through the city solicitor's office. This is the second time they requested us go into executive session without counsel being present, and both times it was at 4:30. They told you to tell me to go into executive session, and same as I did the last time, my response was no.
That's fine.
I mean, you know, that's the way I feel. If they want to talk to me about something, be more than happy to talk to them.
Yep.
Just to say, go into executive session and talk to the board members, I don't see accomplishes. I think we all spent a lot of time on this. We all said a lot of things. To have us go in and speak about ourselves, I basically remember this because this was that January night when we were here to 12:20.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
we had 5 public hearings on. We received a letter from the city solicitor's office that night, 5 minutes before our 5 public hearings started. Okay? Some of the questions that we had on this thing, we asked over a year ago and didn't get the same answers, and then we get a letter 5 minutes before the 5 public hearings. That again had case law, which myself and nobody else had a chance to review. You know, this matter, they've asked for it to be continued 3 times. We've continued it, and then they come in and give it to us the last minute.
Moving on, I did provide for your review an A&R report. If that could just be reviewed and maybe placed on file, I'd recommend that. And finally, just one quick question for the board. I received an email from the engineer for the Old Mother Hubbard project site who is requesting a copy of the proposed minutes for that project. I was hoping to have them for your review tonight. I was unable to get them completed for your review. That was my intention. I apologize. I'd just like maybe your permission to, before they are officially adopted, maybe get those in working order. I can email them to the board, have you review them, and if there's no major questions, pass them on before, knowing that they aren't official record at that time, but at least for their reference, to get that to them as soon as possible.
Why don't you recommend to the attorney to get a copy of the tape? This way you'll have it word for word.
I will do that as well, but I do know they were
I mean-
also looking for a copy of the minutes if possible. I can easily have them come in and review the tapes that we have that evening. We were in the mayor's reception room, so it's not as easy as just going to the library to receive the video, but I do have the tapes from that public hearing. obviously always recommend that as well.
I have no problem with them getting copy of the minutes, but I think basically most of the board members made it pretty clear.
Yeah.
It was basically, it echoed the exact same thing we said at the preliminary plan, excuse me, the pre-application plan was, I mean, I think everybody before they left knew exactly where the board was coming from, but
I agree, I just
I don't
wanted...
think if they, I mean, Division of Planning and Development spent a lot of time with them making recommendations. I think majority of the recommendations that were made by Division of Planning and Development, all the board members commented on, one way or another. I know the, some of the department heads, the traffic engineer and everybody else, we made comments on. But I don't think we could have been any clearer what we're looking for. I mean, so I don't know why they don't get it, I'm serious, but that was my opinion, but, I mean, I don't think we left a lot of things too vague for them. I think most Jerry and Steve said, a lot of things we requested is what we told you the first time in. I mean, I can remember very clearly, basically, what our concerns were. I mean,
right.
If they want something in writing, I mean, I would suggest send it by us first and let us comment on it, and then we can give it to you. I mean, and let them keep in mind that still the public hearing is still open, and these were just comments that we made as a result of the neighbors, and obviously that anybody else who comes in and testifies may bring on more consideration for the board, and not that these are the only things we are considering. As we've discussed about board members before, about when we see a pre-application stage, we say something, then they come in and think, oh, this is the only thing the board's looking at, and then new testimony comes to light, and then we consider that. So I could say, these are some of the issues that were presented because of the plan, and now we're gonna get a whole new plan, which I'm sure is gonna bring up new questions from new department heads, and as a result of that, even from some of the neighbors. So we can tell them what we were concerned about, but I know once we get the new plan, it's gonna change a little bit.
I understand. I
mean,
just, I wanted to run that by you
Sure,
before I
whatever
sent
you wanna
anything
send,
to them.
I'd suggest if you wanna send us email, let us comment on it, and we'll get back to you on it, but I think basically, a lot is gonna change when we see the new plan. But, I mean, regards to where the traffic is going, the density of the project, whether they come out onto Roger Street or onto Perry Street, the height of the building, the facade of the building, whether it's on Perry Street or setback, I think all those were more than clear by the board members.
And certainly, if he's looking for the outline of the meeting to make sure that he's got all the
these are the issues we
proposed
touched on.
changes to change his plan,
I have a
then
feeling that's the primary
absolutely.
reason
Okay.
for asking for that, and I just...
Maybe they're trying to think, maybe if we overstepped something that they wrote down didn't catch.
Well, I think it, and one of my goals will be with whatever I send to them, whatever you approve for me to send to them, I would definitely make a very clear that these are not approved minutes, they're
Right.
just for your review.
Yeah.
They have not been formally reviewed and approved by the board. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I
And I'd
ran
say
that by you
basically,
before I
these
move
were
forward with it.
concerns and comments raised by the board as the public hearing continues.
Right.
And further plans and testimony and further written communications will be available for the board for the next meeting, which I'm sure the board will discuss in detail as they do on each meeting.
Right. That's all I had. Thank you.
That's no problem. Anybody have any objections on that? Or any
No,
board members want to be
just
heard
so
on that?
long as you pass it before us, before
Yes.
you
Yeah.
pass it on to
I mean, if he
Yes.
can send it to us in an email, we can comment on it, but I think, because I know, James, I know your staff spent a lot of time on this and told them what they were looking for. And I think, a lot of the board members said, we made a lot of comments at the pre-application stage, and I think Jerry said we got the same plan. So, I mean, I think that was one of the comments, and I think Steve almost said the same thing, saying, come in for our feedback, we'll give it to you, and we don't see any. But as I say, they're entitled to do what they want with our feedback, and we're entitled to do as we feel appropriate. So, anything further before we?
You had the A&R.
Oh, the A&R. Anybody have any
Just
comments
the
on the
A&R
A&R?
report.
And also, I know we had in the package here, the narrow-minded, we have a little article that James prepared to us about some neighborhoods in Seattle doing smaller house lots. James, I remember we got one before, when they were showing smaller ones, and I believe it was up in Seattle as well, that you got some,
Yeah, they've been pretty well, they've been, part of it is the nature of the development community out there and the nature of Seattle itself. But it's just, it came across my desk and I thought it was interesting and I thought it was fitting in some respects to what some infill development can be or can look like, and I'm not saying it's right for Lowell, I'm just saying it's
Something
something for your
to consider.
consideration, and, you know, maybe there are certain circumstances where it may actually work in a city like Lowell. Maybe if it's a neighborhood that's walkable to the Gallagher terminal to get into Boston really quickly, a house like that may actually work. In some of the neighborhoods that aren't really walkable to anything, maybe it won't work, but it's something to consider. It came across my desk, and I thought you would find it interesting.
I think one part was good, was when it talked about the height, you couldn't do it a certain height unless the building next to you had
Right.
that height, and I
And
thought
that-
that was nice, I mean.
That was
and
the
I-
other portion of it that I thought was
Yeah.
interesting.
And I think-
it really looked at it more comprehensively than
And I do
just-
remember when you gave us the one before, and basically, I think the article also said they have four, I mean, and then this one refers to how many plans that they give, that you're allowed to do. And you could adopt one of these 5 or 6 plans.
Right, that is actually kind of like a form-based code, and
Right,
it's something that it's tough to do in the Massachusetts just legal situation, but it's something that we've been trying to sort of strive towards in Lowell, is that get an idea of what the neighborhoods are looking for infill development, and then saying, okay, this is really what we are encouraging, or this is what we're looking at, this is what we're looking for, something that blends in with the natural
Right.
urban landscape and the built landscape anyway, and it's it's better received within the community, and so it sort of puts that into context there.
Yeah, because I think, you know, I talked about the concerns of the neighborhoods and the character, so when these people came forward, they would have a choice of, say, I think it was 15, 20 different plans, and then this one alludes to a certain number, which escapes me at this point. But you'd come in and say, okay, I'm gonna do that plan.
Right.
And then everybody who would come and look at it and say, well, he opted for this plan, so you basically know what's gonna go up there before they even start constructing.
Exactly.
And these were plans that would be approved by this Planning and Development, and it quotes the gentleman here from Planning and Development, which he throws out a couple of issues to at least consider for other neighborhoods. But I mean, it said, if you want to do it, you have to do one of these several plans, and then
Right.
you knew which plan they were going from right off the bat. So you knew that plan would, which one would basically fit in there. So they've approved a certain concept of different plans that they would allow to go in there, not just you can come in and create your own.
Right, exactly, and it sort of just, it ensures complementary development into a neighborhood as opposed to.
I think it talks about, you know, in here, we have some bad sites, it's not being utilized, nothing's being happened to it. If you're stuck in a downtown area, like you say, someplace over by the railroad, you know, by the train station, you know, something that could go in, they could benefit on the land, but it wouldn't be an eyesore, either for elderly people or an individual just wants one piece of property, is going to commute back and forth to Boston.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't need much of a yard, doesn't need much of parking. you
Doesn't
know.
want much of a yard or a
Yeah,
park.
I mean, people who do not want to really have the burden of maintaining property.
Right.
You know, sort of a condo type thing, but having a single-family home with less maintenance.
It's becoming more of a popular trend. I know it's something that I've
Because you-
personally considered, just because I don't have kids, I don't intend to have kids right now. In the near future, maybe, but you know, I'd
Yep.
rather have a smaller house on a smaller lot, less to
Right.
take care
Tape's
of.
still running here, James.
Fortunately, my wife can't see this.
Yeah, but it's just something to consider, yeah, goes to show that we do read these. Yep.
So I think that has a lot to do with the walkability of the neighborhood, as you mentioned,
Right.
James.
It
right?
does, yes.
So we do a similar type concept downtown, right, in our mills, where we
That's
allow
what- yes, it's-
greater congestion in the development in the mills, because people
Right.
can walk to restaurants and shops and get a
Train
bus to the
station,
train
right, yeah.
station and public transportation.
Right.
Seattle, I'm sure, you know, in an urban center, there's a lot of public transportation available, so people can live in those things. I think Lowell is pretty unique in the way it has such a huge variety of living areas, right?
Yeah.
So my concern a lot is being careful about pushing that congestion, like we try to promote downtown, out into the neighborhoods. That
True.
can be a concern, I think.
True.
Yeah, I think we get into unintended consequences sometimes when we try to apply that. And granted, we have the different zones, but obviously that's the challenge, no question about it. Comes into mind the in-law apartment proposal. They mention in-law apartments as well, but interesting article.
But I am also noticing in Lowell that there is it's becoming more common that people are buying houses in some of these neighborhoods and walking to their jobs in downtown, if they do have a job in downtown. There's a couple that live in the Acre. I know they bought their house. One of the couples is an attorney, the other works for the city in Cool. and they both walk to their jobs in downtown, and they're somewhat examples of what's happening here. Granted, they bought a fixer-upper house, and I think they did renovations to it, but they are sort of showing that Lowell can be that walkable community, and Lowell can be that community that people want to live in, the smaller lot, smaller house, maybe one or no cars a family if they can walk to their job in downtown, or if they can walk to the train station. It's more successful in our downtown areas just because of the natural physical makeup of those areas and their location to like a train station. But I think as Lowell becomes a destination for business, business will bring in jobs, which will bring in people, which will bring in more people who may just want to walk to their job as opposed to commute in from outside. So it may be a long-term goal of the city. It may not be immediate right now, but just to consider.
If no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Good night, everybody.